Well, hello, and welcome back to the fourth episode of Explosive Colonisation. Now, we've got a little bit of an interesting one to start with. There was a problem with TAC live support. I believe it's been sorted out, I'm not quite sure. But essentially, what was going on was it was creating a lot of lag. And I mean a ridiculous amount of lag. I was getting 5 frames a second when nothing was loaded, and 3 frames a second without. And I didn't realise what was going on until I actually closed the game and restarted it. So the beginning of this is basically trying to cut down on that lag and not realising what's causing it. So I thought there was too many things in the same area. And this is Tent City. This is going to be our rocket parts production facility. And essentially what the idea is that there's a facility that produces rocket parts and liquid fuel and oxidizer. And there's going to be 2 space docks running off of it, or I say space docks, but landing docks, using the cast system that I can clip onto these ships that you can see in the background in the top left. And they're going to land, pick up the rocket parts, and disappear. Because it was getting such a low frame rate, I decided to sack off the building it for a moment and move the ships away. Obviously, less things means less issues with the physics engine. And it wasn't until after I had moved 2 of them and I happened to bring up Windows Task Manager that I noticed that KSB wasn't pulling anywhere near a quarter of the resources off of my system, so it was a problem in the actual game. So a little bit of research found the problem, but for the moment this is what I was doing, and it kind of helps because it frees up a bit of space afterwards and allows it to run a bit smoother. So the plan is, at this particular moment in time, is to create just long cast linkages that will, as I say, will be able to be linked onto the bottom of these ships. This is the first one that I created. The other 2 have got the more updated solar panels that come with the near future mod. I've forgotten the name of it. I think it's part of Near Future Solar. I just think they're new parts that were put into that particular one. Nearty's always doing a brilliant job with his stuff. And as you can see from the rest of it, it was made out of the DSEV mod, which I am an absolute fiend for. I think it's absolutely brilliant. So here we are, just placing out our stuff. By this point I've moved 2 of the ships away and I gave up with moving the 3rd. I'm getting a little bit of a better frame rate. And we're just shooting things along. Then I come up with the idea, because I'm running out of power, to put solar panels on top of the actual cast blocks, the mounting blocks. So I take the solar panel that was on my original rover and plonk it on top of another beam. At the moment, Tent City can produce a bit more than rocket parts. It can actually produce any materials that I need, with the exception of liquid hydrogen, I think, at the moment, but that'll be taken care of by something else. So what's going on here is I'm just moving about, just basically producing more things, and then loading them in and creating a bigger base, essentially so that it's easier to land the actual landers. One of the main problems I have with it is that I don't want anything to come too close to the base, and I don't want to break solar panels. The problem with that is that I can lift these I-beams, but I can't lift the solar panels, they're too big. And through this has been a little bit of exploring. I've used Kerbal attachment systems and Kerbal inventory system before, but never to this extent. This is why I'm really enjoying the Pathfinder mod, because you have to find new ways of doing it. And the system I came up with was to put 2 clamps for the boxes onto the actual beams, as you can see here, and then move the box across. Obviously I have a very odd way of thinking, so I'm actually doing 3 things at the same time. I'm putting the clamps on one space because I can lift them, then I'm putting down the bases and extending the pipes out in a different way, and it gets all very confusing if you're trying to follow it sequentially. But I don't like cutting the video up, so sort of jumping forward and backwards in time, basically because it's easier for me to edit the video this way. So this is where we're getting to at the moment, where I'm just going back in there because I literally ran out of EVA propellant. That happened to me about 7 or 8 times. I think in total I was doing this long enough that I saw nighttime twice without unloading Minmus or time warping. This was just mental. There was a lot of stuff to be done between moving the ships and jumping everything back and forward. The only times I time warped was when I was moving the ships, but that was only physical time warp. A little bit of an issue jumping about with this beam, but I managed to get it in the end, as you can see here. Now this gives me a bit, but I still need some more, and I want some battery power as well. So I decided to, using this, if you can see it on the left hand side, there's an extra planetary launch pad launcher that is actually attached to my rover for something that I did in the past. So I decided to use that and create another little vessel that I can link into the base. I'm trying to keep parts counts as low as possible, but at the same time get the job done. Now on switching back here, we're back at the scrap heap station, and what I have realised on switching back, I came back to it because I was supposed to have a ship built, and I realised that I forgot to move up enough rocket parts to get the job done. So I take my high top launcher, which is a severe modification of one of Jester's designs, V8 Jester, and I realised that the thing that I created for it is too heavy, and I get a bit stuck. So I decide to abandon it in mid-flight and go back and have a look at my design again, and modify this, because this is supposed to be a heavy lift plane and it just wasn't doing the job. It's a bit of an issue that is my fault, that is I've added too much fuel to it. It doesn't need the amount of liquid fuel that it's got. But in true Kerbal style, I lighten it slightly and then I add a couple more engines to make it ridiculously fast. And we get into orbit, and you can see there that I am a huge fan of those solar panels from Nearty. They're just beautiful. Well, we just get ourselves sorted, make sure we rotate so that we're catching a little bit of the air, a little bit of the sunshine. And then out comes our rocket parts. Just a simple little probe core on it. For some weird reason I've got a liquid fuel thing on the back. It came from an old design. Again, those cylindrical solar panels come from Nearty's Near Future electrical mod. Tell a lie, Near Future Solar. There's so many, get them all, they're just brilliant. And then just docking onto the little module that's on the back of the station. Now that's actually just essentially a science lab that I stuck there, and I don't know why I did it. I didn't film it and it was just a waste of time, and I decided I really need to get rid of it because it's in the way. But for the moment I make a horrible mistake and crash this lander. Obviously, as I said, this was modified on the fly to get that up there, so luckily all the Kerbal survive. But here is take 2. I don't revert anything unless I'm specifically designing something, but I try and keep that in a skunkworks save. So I lose that lovely module. I lose most of that ship, but I recover a fair amount of it. And no Kerbals die, as I say. And this is the other rocket parts launcher, because I needed 2 loads of rocket parts to complete the ship that's being built. And at this point in time, although I know what it is now, at this point in time I had genuinely forgotten what the ship was. I couldn't remember what it was or why I created it. And I still am not entirely sure. I was a little bit sick a few weeks back. And yeah, things have just floated out of my mind. But here we go, we finally make a proper landing. I decided to keep this all in because I very seldom film my landings. Or at least all of them, so I just thought I'd show that. from just outside of the atmosphere to coming in. I managed to do it all in time warp, and then yeah, the engines fell off. So that design needs a little bit of improvement. Now back to Tent City. So as you can see there, my little method, moving the supply crates to the ground, and then having 2 crates that I can also use as platforms. And then once I come off, I grab all the crates, take everything off, and go about my business. But I notice that my second vehicle is ready for building. So here we are. This is just a battery, solar and radiator rig. So after a little bit of finagling and shifting about of stuff, I get it into the right position, get one of these lovely switchback modules from, I've forgotten it, the Pathfinder mod, there we go, and get everything set up. So now I have a good amount of solar, I have a lot of battery, enough to run everything I need through the night. And we are in business for producing rocket parts. Now the reason that this has come up is because I want to move my station from around Kerbal to around Minimus, and that way I can ship up fuel from Minimus. It costs a lot less, and I won't be recycling parts, I won't be bothering with Kerbal's atmosphere. And when things come back in, I can actually just bring a ship straight back in to Kerbal and essentially half enter an orbit and look back out to Minimus and refuel. So I figured this was a better way of doing it. And here, as I said, I got a little bit annoyed with that science module. I don't know why I put it up, so I decided instead of just taking my orbital modules down, I'd take the entire lot and launch it to the ground. And just to see if I could get everything to explode, I was sort of testing the solar panels because I didn't know what part they sort of broke, and the modules on the back are from the SSTU mod, SSTU Labs. They are brilliant low part things, low part modules. So when you have a main ship, you'll have all of the RCS and the thrusters and the parachutes and all things already on it. It's an absolutely brilliant mod for low end systems, but it's also a brilliant mod for anybody. They're really well modelled, and there is not enough pictures of these things on the forums. It's well worth getting a look at, and they model quite a few, from the Orion to Apollo to Soyuz, and the space shuttle as well. So definitely something worth having a look at if you like playing with those things. I use a lot of the tanks and things, they're brilliantly made, but I was sort of curious about the solar panels, because the solar panels on the SSTU mods don't break the way normal solar panels do, the ones that are integrated at least. So this was a bit of a test, and as you can see, the solar panels that came from near T also survived, which is unusual. Most of his usually break, but might be something I can use in the future. So now I've got a bit of a problem with this. The radiators are always running red hot, and at the moment I don't have the reactors on this station running anywhere near full. I have one reactor that is on, one that's been turned off permanently, and the one that's on is at 20%. So I need to retrofit a few radiators, but I'm also limited to what radiators I can actually carry, because I can't be bothered making a whole new vehicle. So this was just me messing about. I've put a whole load of radiators to be built, and I'm just taking them one at a time. Obviously they take a little bit of time to manufacture, so this was just me shooting about and trying to get it all sorted. And then we get to the beautiful point where, I'm just checking things here, but we get to the beautiful point where I'm actually ready to launch my spacecraft. There's a little break there as a quick save, because you should never launch anything without quick saving beforehand. The amount of times that's killed me. But here we go. This is my liquid hydrogen freighter. Now all in, this is going to carry a lot of liquid hydrogen. It has, again, it's mainly built from the DSEV mod. However, the containers are from cryo tanks that Near-T produces again. brilliant things. They have a flash off. They require power to keep the hydrogen cold, otherwise you just vent the hydrogen, it slowly seeps away. And what happens there is I noticed that I haven't put any solar on this at all. I was running everything on the reactor, so I had to come out and I tried to start up the reactor from outside, and I kept getting this funny message saying that it was too broken and couldn't be fixed. I don't know what was going on. As soon as I got inside the thing with my engineer, I managed to start it up, no problems. Start up all the radiators. However, I noticed that I've been a little shy on the radiators. This happens to me an awful lot for some reason. But as you can see there, I've put more on the back, but my intention was only ever to drop them out when I was using the main thruster. But this thing also uses the RCS thrusters from the DSAV mod. They run on liquid hydrogen and a lot of power. So I save a little bit of effort. There's no point carrying monopropellant when you've got this stuff on board. So I figured that's what I would do, but they suck up a lot of power, and it took an awful lot of thrusters. You can sort of see them dotted about there to make this thing maneuver. Now, I don't know if this was the original intention, but as I was looking at it, I came up with the idea to plug it onto the back of the station and to actually use this to help push it all the way out. So this is just the last bit of what I'm doing, and essentially got it close enough, and this took about an hour, that's why the footage isn't there. But I got it close enough, and essentially so that they had stopped next to each other. So I jumped between the two ships and just turned off their stability control and let them slowly drift together, which this is at least at 4 times time acceleration. It took a long time, and I didn't want to speed this up in the game because it was already jumping, and the last thing I want is for these two things to explode. So this is essentially the end of this video. The next video we're going to be shoving this station all the way out to Minmus, hopefully, knowing my luck will explode, and then getting our hydrogen base up and running so that we can actually refill this with liquid hydrogen. But that is it for just now. I hope you've enjoyed watching, and I shall see you in the next video.